Welcome to the Lucentlands podcast. We have identified the need for a platform where industry leaders and innovators in the agricultural sector can share their stories and inspire others. We hope you enjoy listening to this as much as we enjoyed speaking to these people. Welcome.
So, Dané, it's really nice to meet with you and meet with you in South Africa. We know that you're based in the States, but it would also be nice for you just to tell us, how did a girl from the Hex River Valley...
who she is.
Yes, what is your position? And then also just tell us how did your life move to get there? We'll chat along the way.
Okay, well, it's nice to have you guys here and to be able to join your new podcast, which is really, really exciting.
Thank you for your faith in us.
No, very faithful. My journey, I always think of my life journey is still being written, but I'm really proud and also fortunate for the journey that I already went through, because obviously whoever I am today is because of that. But I was born here in the Hex River Valley in South Africa, and my journey was a very sport-driven journey.
I've heard of the Louise has enlightened me on that, but I'm curious about that.
Where did you hear?
No, I just heard
The valley's not big.
that you were a very good tennis player.
Yeah, well, yes, and I tried to pursue that further. And so I left home when I was about 14. Like most kids in the Hex do, they need to go to high school somewhere else. But I went to Stellenbosch in Bloemhof for about 2 years. And then I decided, okay, I need to make a move because of tennis to Vanderbijl Park. And Vanderbijl Park, it's not necessarily the most beautiful place.
Die Veildriehoek.
Yeah, die Veildriehoek. And then I did homeschooling. We were in a house with 10 kids playing tennis for like 5 hours a day, doing gym another hour, doing mental sessions. Crazy. And the homeschooling, we had to educate ourselves. Anyway, I was there for about, 8 months and then moved to Pretoria. And I'm from the Western Cape. So moved to Pretoria.
That must have been quite a challenge for you, something very different, especially being that young.
Yeah, definitely. But I think for my parents, that was also a hard pill to swallow. But you also believe that's what you need to do if you really want to go professional. So my coach was John Lafney de Jager, which is a very well-known person in the tennis industry. But they welcomed me and one of my friends into their house for a few months, which was the rest of the year out of that 8 months we already did. So I finished 2 subjects, English and geography, grade 10. And then I went to Waterkloof High School. And they told me, Dané, and I should probably not say this, the fact that I don't have grade 10, but they told me, Dané, we give you 1 quarter to showcase that you are grade 11 suited. And so I got into that math class and I was like, what is on this board? I could not make out what went on that.
And grade 11 is a difficult one as well.
Yeah, and
I also struggled
math.
with that. Don't worry about
it. What do they say with people say, I used to understand maths until the alphabet got involved.
Exactly. That was exactly it. I was like, what is these Greek words? And then I had to work really hard, eventually got through grade 11 through grade 12. And I always dreamed from grade 8 to go overseas and play tennis there. So I went to Texas 2 years, transferred, went to California.
Straight from school you went to Texas?
I had about 6 months because they have, obviously, their years start differently than ours. And so I had 6 months in practicing, playing tournaments, went overseas, Texas, but I never went to visit. I just signed the contract and started my journey there for 2 years. It was good, but then I moved to California. And California is obviously the state in which agriculture happens. Like 98% of produce for the US is produced there. And I went to a school that I'm very fortunate to be able to have gotten into. Played tennis, finished my tennis journey there, and then work came. And
Was that in Los Angeles or where was the school?
it
Which
was
school?
San Luis Obispo, and the school name is Cal Poly.
Okay.
It's a lot of people in the industry actually do come from that college too.
And how was it different going from a Waterkloof Afrikaans school to
Texas, to
an American
California.
school?
Wow.
I studied with a dictionary. That I think the English was the biggest part. I think the fact that you're always part of a team, it makes it easy because you always have people and you have support. It's not like you're alone. Culture-wise, that was definitely a adaptation you had to go through, but it was it was good. My journey has been good. It's not been easy, but it's been good. And my doors have opened where they needed to open. And the opportunities were there where they needed to be there, and also taken. It doesn't help opportunities there if you don't take
I'm
it.
sure that you must have had many a moment that was agony and ecstasy along the way.
Definitely.
Funny things that happened and things that you had to overcome and misunderstandings, but you just have to carry on.
Definitely. And there's been moments, I remember, I think my second year, my parents were like, but come back. Because then I made the switch. And I'm like, I cannot come back. Like, not that I wouldn't want to, just because you need to finish what you've started. And it's obviously much more, if you come back in that period, then you have to start over. You can't just continue somewhere in university anyway. So, that was my study phase. And then came the job opportunity phase. And I interviewed with a few people because I had a year in which I could work overseas. And with the kind of visa they give you. And so I interviewed with a couple of companies like Gallo Wines and eventually also Sunworld. And got my second interview with Sunworld. The first
When
interview,
was that? What year?
Oh my word! I think that was 2015 or 2016, around there. Yeah.
But what made you apply for those jobs?
Well, the wine category was just interesting and fancy in a sense, like especially for a college student, you think a little.
Of course, it's romantic and it's exciting, and and you'd have some free wine somewhere along the way.
Yes, and that's great. And this company specifically hired a lot of students from us, and they were a little bit more fun in a way.
Yes.
And Sunworld came about. In my college years, I came back and I just had discussions with like the grape company, and they were just willing. Like my brother used to work there for quite some time, and they just basically said, "Dané, let's just have a discussion, talk to us, like as like mentorship." And I think the connection came there because they contacted Sunworld, and so I reached out to Sunworld, and somehow the two just collided. And crazy enough, my father is obviously a farmer, and he has been planting Sunworld varieties and other competitors.
So there was quite a lot of synergy there to begin with.
Yes.
You know, you obviously have to build on that, but if there's something that connects you to begin with, I'm sure that makes it easier.
But you wanted to go into agriculture?
Not specifically, no.
Okay.
I studied business marketing. I didn't study business ag marketing, which everyone asks me, why didn't you just study that?
But you get that in the States, business, agricultural.
Agriculture.
But you don't get it here?
You don't?
Not that I know of.
No,
I'm not sure.
Bemarken.
I'm not sure. But anyway, so you were saying, so you studied business marketing and Sunworld.
Yes, and then so the interview came, and I don't know, you've been to Bakersfield, and you need to go to Bakersfield.
I was there.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah,
We were there
we were
together
there
now.
together. Okay. Yeah. There were a lot of people.
Yeah, there was a lot of people. And I was driving from St. Louis, which is literally west of Bakersfield. And then you drive through all these oil fields
Yeah.
with these
Yeah.
machines.
Those derrick thingies that pop up and down like this.
Yes. And I have never seen them in South
Only in the
Africa.
movies.
Yeah, in the movies we
Yes.
see them, and they're typically horror movies. I was literally 22 years old thinking, where am I going? Like, I'm going for this interview, where am I going? Anyway, did the interview and then started with Sunworld. And my journey with Sunworld has been through different positions, but eventually ended up in marketing again. And and now the position has just grown a little bit throughout the years. So.
Fantastic. But when we went to Bakersfield, everybody says, "Yeah, you're going to the small town Bakersfield," and then you get there, and we drove in at night, and I said to Louise, "This is Bloemfontein."
It does look like Bloemfontein.
It's the size of
And it's
Bloemfontein.
big. It's not small.
No, it's
and
big.
It was incredible. But our experience from California was the platteland or the rural area like Bakersfield is our type of people.
Yeah.
As soon as you go back over the mountain to the city, it's
Different
different
people.
culture.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. But did you guys go south or you went north?
We went a little bit north. We went to Fresno.
Okay.
And we had a look around and we really enjoyed it. But what was really incredible was to see the valley, the San Joaquin Valley, to see that incredible homogeneous and beautiful soil. And what you were saying, that more than 90% of the American fresh produce comes from there. That's phenomenal. The whole of the States is fed from there.
But you went there in 2015. What year?
I started working for Sunworld 2016 and I went 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, 2012.
But one of the things that caught our attention when, like you said, the oil derricks is that there's no fences. It was just
no fences.
It was just weird.
But we had that like years ago.
Yes.
Years ago,
Yes.
Yeah.
But when you come from where we are now and you go and see it, it hits you that obviously, people put up fences for a reason.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But so you joined Sunworld. What was your first position at Sunworld?
I was an intern. The internship only had to last for about 4 months, and then they extended it to 6 months. So I was an intern in the sales and marketing department, and it was mostly like dealing with orders and placing samples to retailers and dealing with things like that. And then I honestly told them, I still don't know what I want to do. Because I feel a lot of people out of college is like, I've studied this, but seriously, I'm unsure of what I want to do. It's
very honest, and I think a lot of young people do that. They go out into the world and they don't really have a particular direction they want to go in, and then it's about timing and opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I feel a lot of young people now, there's definitely a movement where they don't stick with the job for so long. So
as soon as they hit a speed bump, then...
Yeah, well, I don't know about the speed bump. But, and I think that obviously helps them with their experiences. Whereas in the past generations, they've really stuck to their work for longer.
Yeah, well, it's honest also for you to tell them that you're not too sure what you do, but you're still there and you've obviously progressed in your job. So after you did that, what came then?
So I told them honestly, I don't know what I want to do, and they developed this training program, which was it's a really cool concept for any company, really. So every quarter you rotate into a different division. So I did HR, I did the sales and marketing, a little bit of the farming, and then I went to our variety development division, and they were looking for a marketing person, but the time was just not right. So this rotation was suited for that. And then...
Sorry to interrupt. Is that only for the interns or for other staff as well?
Well, they created the program for me and the program stopped. so I don't know if I broke it, but... No, I just think, I think it's something that could be implemented again, whether it is for employees or for interns. But
But it's nice. It gives you a little bit of a picture of all the divisions.
Everything, yeah.
So if you did settle into one of the other divisions, at least you'd understand what your counterparts in the other divisions are doing.
Definitely.
And what their purpose is.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you learnt a lot, and then where did you settle? Which part of the company?
I stopped at the variety development marketing position, and from there, I think I was like marketing specialist, and then the position just evolved to whatever it is today. So today, I'm the senior marketing manager for Sunworld. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
That's incredible that you've achieved that. I mean, it must have been a lot of hard work and a commitment. And obviously you were working with people that you felt an affinity with and that you enjoyed working with.
Definitely. Yeah, that's the thing about this industry. I don't know for you guys, but it is the people. Like, obviously we have our challenges and things, but you get to an event and people from all around the world is there and everyone connects. So even if there are enemies on a farm next to each other, it's a good time together. And
yes, it is. It is very interesting to see the dynamics when people get together globally in a single place, and they've come from all from next door.
Yeah.
How differently they relate to each other, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
So, tell us about your journey in this position. I mean, it must be very interesting, and the people that you meet, and the incredible varieties that Sunworld has.
Yeah. So this position, just to say how I got back to the HEX, because I went out of the HEX and to complete the circle. So I reached a period where I had to come back home for a year for visa reasons. And the year passed and David, our CEO, he asked me, so are you coming back? I'm like, David, can you please give me one more year? And so I lived another year, and he calls me again and he's, Dané, are you coming back to the US? I'm like, David, I'm sorry, but I'm staying. So for me, it's a decision to live here in South Africa, mostly because of family, because I didn't necessarily have that early on. With that, our company is very international. We have offices in a lot of the major countries we are in, and we are in about 16 countries where our varieties is grown. So our nature of Sunworld is international. So I can do my job from here. Yes, it's harder, but it's one of the things that it's a decision you make. The position itself, to answer your question a little bit, it just gives me a wonderful opportunity to meet people from everywhere. It's not just one country based. We see a lot of our licensees, which we have 1,800 growers all around the world and about 105 marketers. We see them through various events throughout the year, and we also host them for various events. So it's really nice to be able to meet our people everywhere in the world and continue building those relationships. That's pretty special.
And did COVID play a role in your decision? Or did this happen before COVID, that you decided to stay in South Africa?
Just before COVID.
Okay.
It was about, I think, a year before COVID. Yeah. So I think COVID made it easier to stay because there was nowhere to go.
All the technologies like Zoom and whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
Sure.
Okay. And we were just chatting to some table grape growers recently, and they were saying, and we also saw at the Global Grape Summit that there are obviously several grape breeding houses, but that everybody sort of gives Sunworld the recognition that they were one of the earliest to actually be, and especially to South Africa, spreading their varieties.
Yes.
And the new varieties seem to have made a big difference to the grape industry and potentially the other industries. So it's adding value through the industries. any comments that you've ever had from people that have come and spoken to you about the new varieties? It'd just be interesting to know what people have said to you.
Yes. I think it's great to have new varieties, and yes, we should have new varieties. That's better and keep on improving, not only for the consumer to have something better, but also for the grower to have something better. Like, for example, cost is a big thing right now. And imagine you have a variety that requires less labor, less manipulations, less applications. So, and also a variety that can store better. So for with the shipping challenges, if a variety can store better or be more rain resistant, that helps. And that's our role, is to be able to provide that more innovative varieties. On the other hand, I think that's also a challenge, because the more varieties you have, it also becomes a challenge for the grower, because there's so much selection. So I think...
Or that a supermarket might choose something that cannot grow here.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
The range of choice is not necessarily a good thing in the end, because you might make the wrong choice for you.
Yes. And I think that's where we truly try to make or approach things differently. And I believe our licensees speak to that as well, is to not bring out so many varieties, to thoroughly test our varieties. So we have a very long process in which we test the variety globally everywhere for about additional 3 to 4 years before we say, okay, growers, we trust and believe in this variety. If you want it, you can plant it. So, and even looking at Sunworld started in 1976, and our breeding entity started about 10 years after that. So that's why we have been the longest, like you say. But if you look at our grape brands, we have about like 5 grape brands and 5 varieties we've released throughout that. Yes, we have new varieties that's obviously in the pipeline, but I mean, that's a long time to only have so
5,
few.
Yeah.
But it's not only grapes, it's also stone fruit.
Stone fruit, yeah.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. You guys don't do just grapes, you do stone fruit as well.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about the stone fruit programs.
Yeah, our stone fruit is also globally. I would say it's a smaller portfolio of Sunworld. We do the majority of our efforts to go towards the grapes. And our stone fruit includes peaches, nectarines, apricots, plums. Our plums are pretty high in demand. And then we also have cherries now, which I think we have about 1 or 2 varieties, but that's in the process. And we appointed a specialty fruit breeder, which basically goes and look at other fruit crops that have potential that needs further development. So we might expand our portfolio even more.
Okay.
Like what, if we may ask?
I don't know if I can say that yet.
But you're investigating crops that are looking good.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And promising. And also, yeah, where we see breeding can still play a role.
Yeah. So I would imagine that working with your licensees around the world, when you all get together, it must be a bit like a family reunion in a way.
Yes.
And to have all the different languages from all over the world, I mean, everybody, you can just see them being excited to get together.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose they come and speak Spanish to you sometimes.
Definitely, and I don't speak Spanish. But you guys were in Bakersfield. Like, how was that for you? Could you see that, like, atmosphere and family feel?
Yeah. Very much so. And the fact that at the Global Grape Summit, they had representatives from the 4 top breeding companies on the stage together, and they were quite happy to be, it seemed that they were happy to be there together. Yeah. And it was also interesting to see that they deferred to Sunworld and said Sunworld is the oldest. Sunworld had shown the lead in this. So that's exciting. And also that, chatting to table grape growers, they were saying that the new varieties really rejuvenated the table grape industry from where, particularly in South Africa, we had mostly seeded varieties. So it's been quite a revolution over time to seedless and also to better varieties. And that's where I would imagine Sunworld has helped, not just here, but internationally.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And it's good to hear that people talk so highly of that. And I think with even your comment about the breeders sitting together, they formed the Breeders Alliance that basically takes all the breeders together to help with IP surveillance, because there's
Okay,
many growers
yes.
around the world that illegally plant our varieties, their varieties, and to be able to protect our licensees, because they pay for these
Yes.
varieties through licensing fees. So we formed this alliance to be able to surveil and make sure that our IP is kept appropriately.
Didn't I see an article now recently
Yes.
about Sunworld in Peru? Was it,
Italy.
was
I
it
saw
Italy?
something about that in Italy, that somebody was growing your product illegally, actually, and that after tests and stuff, it was proven that it was your product.
I also saw it's a South American country also that they're investigating or looking at something.
I'm sure there is,
Yeah.
But it's interesting that too, like technology playing a role in that. They use like drones to fly over the vineyards to see, and they could see by the leaves that it was, and obviously then they did fingerprint tests to be able to verify. But it's very interesting to see those.
But I would imagine, particularly if your top breeding companies are working together, or all the breeding companies are working together, you're going to be more successful because you've got a common enemy, and that's people that are growing your things illegally.
Yes.
If you are not united, it would probably be a lot more difficult to follow up these people.
Definitely.
That's pretty cool. So that they're working together in that aspect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is very nice to see competitors coming together.
And so if you think about your job now and what you're doing, and you look down the road, do you see yourself continuing in this role? Are you enjoying it? Is it something you want to discuss?
Yeah. Now I love my job. My role as the senior marketing manager is very diverse, and there's many aspects to it. And there's, I think, in the last years too, like obviously as a breeding company, you don't do marketing the way let's say some of our exporters do, or larger corporations do. That our focus and our primary focus is obviously our licensees. So I think the landscape now for breeders, it's not necessarily there where others are, but marketing is becoming to play a bigger and bigger role. And we see that with others in our line as well, that they start investing in these things, trying to get the communication out there. So with that, I'm excited about the marketing in breeding, and also making sure that our relationships with retailers now is starting to build, because before in 2019 and before that, we were a vertical company. We focused on growing grapes, also the shipping and the marketing and all of that, and then the breeding. And then in 2019 that fell away, and we started focusing only on the breeding. And so those aspects, what we had before, obviously helped with the retail relationships, because they had to speak directly to the retailer. And so it's really to build those relationships again, not just for us, but for our licensees. Because if we can communicate our varieties and our program, that obviously helps the licensee that sells to the retailer.
But what kind of things are you thinking about implementing, or have you implemented that worked?
Marketing strategies.
Yeah, is it video? Is it TikTok? Is it what is it, person to person? What have you seen that has like really worked for not just for you guys, but obviously your competitors as well?
Yeah, I think for us at this point, I can probably just speak to us mostly, is expanding into social media platforms, because breeding is not something you necessarily communicate.
Yeah.
So finding
And
ways.
not a lot of people know about it either.
Yeah, no.
But it's a green grape.
Yeah.
They don't know.
That's another topic about branding and grapes. But I think, Yeah, social media is obviously a big thing these days, and it's really a platforms that you can use to communicate your message. On the other hand, we've also employed a brand ambassador, Rupert Maud, which was part of the Global Grape Summit.
Okay.
He told his life story. Do you remember that? He went to sit on the chair, and then he started talking about his story.
Yes, I do recall.
So Rupert, he's our brand ambassador.
Where is he from again?
Spain.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So he's responsible for those retail relationships and going to them and talking about Sunworld and seeing also where we can connect the retailer with the licensee. So a lot of the time the retailer's like, so where can I get your autumn crisp grapes? And we're like, okay, well, in this time of year, you can get it from this country.
Yes.
From this time of year, you can get it in that country. So connecting them with our licensees and connecting the network.
But a brand ambassador, if you mention that to anybody in South Africa, you would say they're associated to, they do something, but that brand is like sponsoring. Does he also grow? Is he a exporter?
He's solely just responsible for Sunworld. He's employed by Sunworld.
Okay.
Yeah. And he has been in the industry for quite some time. He was actually one of our licensees, El Cerrallo, that's also in Spain, which is a big marketer and grower. So he comes with that background and those retail relationships he already had there. So, yeah.
So, on Sunworld and the business expansion, are the hectares of Sunworld grapes that have been planted in the world, are they still growing? Are they changing? What's the trend?
Yeah, they're definitely growing. I think this year we see some pauses in some countries with all the difficulty and the inflation and all those things that goes on. Peru is, like you guys know,
It's growing at an incredible rate.
Yeah, they are doing the majority of the plantings. And I think they exceeded Chile now with exports and production, which
But
was...
I was going to say that earlier, that they're just booming in everything by the looks of things. All the produce things.
Yeah.
I think that they're booming from a base where Peru was really mostly if I remember, you always heard about the amazing red globe from Peru.
Yes.
That was like Peru's signature.
Yeah.
But now it's almost like they're getting a lot more sophisticated and more developed, and there's a lot more investment coming into Peru. They obviously have the water and the land.
And the climate.
And I know that Chile, things are not that easy in Chile at the moment. Yeah. So potentially they are taking some of the market share that's being lost in Chile. But it is interesting that you hear from everybody, Peru's happening. Peru's really going places.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
But everything reaches a point somewhere.
Yes.
So, but for now they are doing good. They're producing good grapes. And like you say, like they've started replacing this red superior seedless and becoming more innovative in that.
What sort of development do you have for Sunworld in Asia?
Asia was and is a difficult market because we should be able to protect our varieties there. We have had some development there, which is in progress now. But we'll leave it at that. But it's obviously a very important.
Okay. So variety protection is not as easy in the Asian countries.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
I understand. Okay, interesting.
Are they breeding their own varieties?
They have. There is, I think it's the Shining Muscat.
Okay.
I think that is from China, which is a big variety in China. So I think they do have some of their own.
Well, I would imagine they would, because they are so big with so much technology that...
Interesting.
Yeah.
And Australia?
Australia, what about them specifically?
How well represented is Sunworld there, and are your plantings growing there?
Yes. So Australia, I think, is our second oldest licensing office. If I'm correct, we actually have our 20th anniversary this month.
Oh, lovely.
Which is very, very good. And yeah, we're continuing to expand there. We appointed a couple of new marketers there as well in the past year or two. Obviously, it's a very important market for the Asian market. Or it's a very important growing region for the Asian market.
Yes.
I think about 35% of their grapes go there. So...
Okay, that's interesting because it's because of Asia that I asked you about Australia, because I know that is a lot of the supply is coming from Australia, and that the Australian table grape industry has actually boomed quite a bit in the last, the exports anyway have boomed in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. And they're doing very well, and I think last year their production was also good. They were affected with some climate issues, but all in all, the market in Australia does good, and obviously they have that direct channel to Asia, so that helps them a lot.
Yes.
Oh.
So back to you.
Oh.
In your job, does your job require you to travel internationally quite a lot, other than between here and your office?
Yes. Well, so like I said before, I came back in 2019. So I had a year that I was here, and then COVID happened. So COVID made us all stranded. This year was actually the first time we could execute the plan of being in South Africa and having to work overseas. And I think I was out of the country for about 4 months out of the year, which is quite a lot. And the season doesn't end. Like we have the Southern Hemisphere season, and then we go to California and we have the season in the Northern Hemisphere. So to be able to be there during that season is very important. Like you guys were there too, to see that. And then further on, other travels beside California is like the big trade shows where we go and we represent Sunworld, and we meet with our licensees again, and we promote our grape brands and Stanford brands. Is Asia, Berlin, Madrid, and there was always London, but London has kind of fallen off now. And then then California, the IFPA show that just passed. So that's basically the travel, the majority of the travel.
When I spoke to you on WhatsApp earlier this year, you were in Italy.
Yeah.
We were having a very cold South African winter. You told me you were in Italy, and I was very jealous.
I planned to skip winter this year. I was like, I do not want to go to winter, so I completely planned to skip winter, and I
did you manage?
Succeeded.
There you go.
I did come back in September, and it was still cold, and I was like so grumpy about it, but no, it was good.
Yeah. And after all these years, do you still play tennis?
I've lost my tennis rackets on the airport, and Mango is closed, so somewhere it's sitting.
So there's a tennis racket somewhere in Mango Airlines.
And I've tried to get them, but so that answers your question of how much tennis I play, but I do enjoy it.
But back then, were you set on making it a career?
Yeah, I wanted to, I think, until my second year of college. And then I was like, I realized, because you always, like I said, you were in a team. And then you realize the individuality of it, like that. It's a very individual sport, and that's not necessarily who I am.
But having been as committed as you were to that through those years, it really takes commitment, and commitment always means that you have to have sacrifices. Like you said, you had to sacrifice to go to go and be homeschooled away from home, and to travel abroad to go and study. So I would imagine you've actually been used to studying, traveling and having to be away from home and coping with different cultures for a long time.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I think even with the tennis, like in our Texas team, we didn't have one American.
Oh wow!
We had like people from all over, Russians, Chileans. so people from all over.
But would you, looking back now, would you send your kids on the same thing?
If my kids want to do it, yes. I'm not going to steer them away from it. Whatever their path needs to be, I would allow that. So,
Yes.
But I presume something like that forces you to grow up pretty quickly, because you
Yes.
must look after yourself and do your thing, and mom is not there to help with everything, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, definitely. But I'm grateful for the journey that has been put on my path.
Well, and also, you know, a question I have about your role with Sunworld. It's a huge concession that you have, that you can live here and represent a Californian company from here. It must mean it's a huge compliment to you that they are prepared to allow you to do that. You must have a very good relationship with your team and with the management.
Yeah. I think Sunworld as a company is really a good company to work for, and the culture within it as well. And I don't give any honor to myself. It's more so just the culture of the company, and the fact that it's built of trust and even like my boss, which is David Margulis, just the trust and support from
Mentorship,
them.
I would
And,
imagine, has been there too.
Yeah, definitely. So that obviously helps a lot, and makes it able for me to be here and work from here. And again, the internationality of our company, and that people work. That's how we work. So that I've been very fortunate in that part, that they said that's fine, you can work from South Africa, and obviously they had to trust me in that process. If they didn't, they would have said no, come work here, or
So how does working for, I'm not just talking about Sunworld, I'm talking just in general, how does it differ from a South African company in terms of how company benefits and those kind of things are structured? Because I know in South Africa you've got a pension fund and you've got a medical aid, and we hear about all these things, and again in the movies and the series, about how does that differ from, I'm just curious.
Yeah. I can say what I know about the US, not so much about South Africa, but so we have, when we were also a bigger company, we had a couple of benefits. We had a lot of medical benefits, like we could go to the eye doctor and get free tests,
I'm just going to give him a
free glasses and things like that. And then they have a 401k, which is your retirement fund. So part of your salary goes into your retirement fund. And then we get gym opportunities too. So you can go to get a gym membership, and that's paid for. So
does the company pay for something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So a lot of American companies and even other companies, there's many benefits how they kind of draw and keep employees to and make their work life a little bit better. There was a lot of those benefits. And another thing about the grape category, just to go into back where we spoke about all the new varieties, and that it's obviously a positive. But I think somewhere, like I said, there's been this overload of varieties, and somehow, especially with retailers now, they have tried to simplify things, and they've tried to simplify things by making a lot of the things generic. So a consumer sees red and green and black. And I think, especially for a grower that maybe have grown a Thompson before, that was a public variety, versus growing an Autumn Crisp now, there's something that they pay for and is a proprietary variety, which you should receive a premium for. It's hard to think that because of the generalizing of the grape in the supermarket, that kind of devalues the market and the pricing, and somehow we need to start getting that value back into the market. And honestly, like, we believe that's branding. Branding grapes and obviously having superb quality in that brand. And Sunworld itself as well, we've been working on a strategy now that kind of simplifies the category, because as a retailer before, or sorry, as a breeder before, we have developed a variety and we've created a brand. We've developed a variety, created a brand, and that's not a sustainable approach forward. So we've seen it in many other categories, like the apple category and the mandarin category, where they use an umbrella brand. And I wouldn't be surprised if more people start looking to do that and try to get brand recognition like that at the store level, and also in turn create value back to our licensees that's growing a proprietary variety versus a public variety. So I think that's something we need to bring value back into the grape category, and that's one of the ways we're looking to do that.
What you're saying is incredibly interesting, because you work so hard to create this product with this brand, and then the supermarket says, no, we just want white.
Yeah.
And then, so how's that different from all the others in the queue, other white varieties, red or whatever? And I know the supermarkets are trying very hard to get their brand onto that, and not allow your brand, which has many years of research, millions of hours of work, and has its own value, that's not allowed to come through,
but it's
which
like
makes
now,
it difficult.
It's like now, for the last 3 years, I've been working in the grape industry. If I go into the supermarket now, be it Pick n Pay or Woolworths, wherever, I look at what the cultivars that's on the shelf, and then you see something like an autumn crisp, and then it's small little berries like this, and you. Just talking from a South African point, I don't think the people, they've got any idea of what is available out there.
No.
Because our best quality is often exported.
Yeah.
It's just how it is, because people expect
I do think that
better money
if they
from the
knew,
export.
if the local market knew what is available, they would start demanding it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people in South Africa that can pay the premium price.
Well, some of our premium supermarkets are stocking those now,
But it's still not the same. It's still not the same as what is going overseas.
That's market driven,
Yeah.
you know. But what you're saying is maybe more market development would make a change there, which is fair enough.
Yeah, definitely. But that is like to get the local up. I mean, that's always a movement that can happen, but the demand needs to be there, and the people that's willing to buy. But I also believe there is a market, there's a niche market for that.
Yeah, obviously you're not gonna take 77 million boxes of grapes in South Africa. But I'm just thinking of a variety that was planted here that is just not working. It grows here well, but it just can't travel. The local market will take that, but they don't know about it.
Yeah.
There are actually some of those, but that's a whole different topic. Tell you about that. There's stuff like that. I have a question for you, and I think it's kind of our wrap up, unless you were more. You want to tell us, you're a young person, you didn't think that you were going to go into the agricultural sector. A lot of young people don't think agriculture is sexy. Yet it sustains us 3 meals a day. You're in the agricultural sector, in the international sphere, which is actually very exciting. And as a South African, you have made it into the international sector. Would you recommend young people to consider the agricultural sector?
Definitely. And agriculture, although it doesn't necessarily come to your mind as a sexy thing, is sexy.
Very.
And the people in it is so fun and innovative, and I don't think it's something that you can necessarily replace. Like many people have said, people that come into the agriculture sector stays in the agriculture sector. Even if they go away for a little bit, they eventually come back. So I would, for young people, say you're missing out. Maybe just give it a chance. And there's a lot of opportunity in South Africa specifically for the young people. But even overseas, like we see that the young people go to technology companies and things that is not agriculture. So I think there is definitely obviously a demand for it, but it's something I would recommend agriculture to anyone, and even females. Obviously it's a sector that's dominated by males, but there's a lot of...
Not anymore. It's the girls are cooking.
It's pretty. I think it's getting less.
Yeah.
You're seeing some incredibly inspiring young women coming in and really making their space. You included. So it's
And
pretty
yourself.
cool. Thank you. Am I young?
Yes.
We try.
The spirit is what
But you know,
matters.
it's yes, passion takes you a long way, and I think agriculture is so vital, and people tend to forget that. So
Yeah.
it's very encouraging to speak to young people and to, as you're saying, encouraging them to join the sector.
Yeah, and like you say, it's very important. And what if we don't have it?
Yes.
Like it is
It needs to grow.
Yeah, because what happens if it's not there?
Yeah, because older people are going to die, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
there must be somebody to replace them.
Yeah. And also, like when you look at COVID times, it was one of the sectors that kept running. That shows you the importance of it. So it's not just what do you say, beroep?
It's not just a
occupation.
career or an occupation.
Yeah, there's a...
There's so much stuff that people are so misinformed about. I've been seeing things on social media where people are saying farming must stop because farming is killing the planet. But all people will die if farming stopped.
Yeah.
So I mean, people need to be re-educated on the importance of agriculture, and yes, obviously do it sustainably. But come to our sector and come and learn and come and help us. You agree?
Yeah, definitely. And I will encourage that as my career also goes forward.
So joining on to that question, being back in South Africa, obviously you've got your group of friends here, but if let's say you go to a new place and you stand around and people, what do you do? What do you do? What do you tell them?
What do I do?
Yeah. If somebody else, okay, now you're a group of new people and they ask you, what do you do for a living?
Okay.
What do you
and
tell
people
them?
that's not from the sector.
That's not from that, just got no idea.
I explain to them our business, but in a very human way, where obviously we are in the breeding field. So I basically tell them I do the marketing for this company, but what the company does is they develop new varieties. So whatever you guys eat, grape-wise and Stanford-wise, we develop the next varieties. And then the question always comes like, what? Like no one knows about this. So how does this happen? And the easy explanation is to take like a mom and a dad and crossing them, and they get kids, and you throw away most of the kids, but you only take the beautiful kid. So that's kind of the easy way to explain.
Do they talk to you after that?
I don't have many friends. That maybe explains it. No, I'm joking. But yeah. No,
it's a very good way of explaining it.
Yeah, so and then I start finding it very interesting. I had a girl starting to work for me, and she never knew about this. And young women, and she was so intrigued. Every time I get a WhatsApp from her in Woolworths or somewhere, and she takes pictures, she's like, I tasted this variety and this variety. I never knew there was varieties. I only just bought the fruit. So it's education, like you say, at the end of the day. And if we can start educating
How do you see people like us doing that? To educate the public.
Educate the public on this kind of thing. It's quite an interesting
because
challenge.
What we're doing here now is something new for us. And we're going to be talking to people that already know. And our audience is probably going to be people that already know. But if somebody like us how can we educate the public more?
Well, focused on South Africa, I think one way is to go to universities and speaking to the students there. They're forced to sit in a class, or not forced, but they are there to learn. And that's one way to come into a class, talk about that, inform them. That's maybe one way to do it. I think on the other level where consumers engage the most is at retail.
Yes, because they can get to see and taste there.
Yeah.
But it's not like the States, unfortunately, where you've got a farm, like what we've seen, where they've got this little stand marketing their product because it's their brand is on the box.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I think the retailers can play a part too, like having samples. And I know that's obviously investing marketing dollars. But that's one way to, if that's a category they want to grow, to also educate the consumer. I think for you guys as Lucentlands, like obviously I saw you guys being in the US. I noticed your company doing very good videography.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I really mean that. Like, it's not often that you see something, you're like really attach yourself to it and can see these people are doing a great job. So that's a way you already reach people internationally, is through that. And obviously the companies that you do business with is international, so that educates already. Like, people see something, they want to know more about it. But I personally think one way is maybe to start with students, and especially in the ag sector, and educate them, because they don't necessarily know these things.
Yeah. That knowledge transfer, it's not easy, but it's very important.
Yeah.
At that level, to actually, because there's so much distracting them at the moment. There's studies, there's social media, there's socializing, there's all of that. But to actually get in there and create the wow factor. Interestingly, one of the people that we've seen in Worcester is a company that does breeding. They do Syngene. They do tests on
It's a genetics lab.
genetics lab.
So that is similar to what, let's say, I don't know, do you know them? Know about them?
They're called Syngene. They do genetic testing in agriculture.
Let's say a grower plants a block of vines and there's maybe a row that he's not sure if this is, he will take the plant, analyze it, see if it is your variety or the right one, or there's a disease or whatever the story is. And they also do breeding of new strains of wheat and things like that.
Testing of that, yeah.
No, but they developed one last year.
That's right, yes.
So what they do is they've got open days where they invite biology students to come and experience a day there. They do DNA extraction, and because if you ask any child now what is genetics,
they'll tell the story that you told about the two parents and the pretty children.
No, but they think humans, they think animals. They don't think plants.
Animals. Yeah. They don't think about plants.
Yeah.
And so they're doing quite a big drive to educate students more for genetics, because they need more people for that.
And it is incredible to see these young people, these young kids, 15, 16, 17, coming there, doing this and going, oh, wow.
But it's even more, it's more the teachers,
this.
because
The teachers
you've
as
got
well.
a teacher that's been teaching for 15, 20 years, the same thing about genetics from a handbook. Now she's doing it.
Yeah.
So that's actually quite an idea to get them there, to see it, to see them, the embryo rescue, for them see all of that stuff, for them to go, wow.
Exactly. So in 2016, we went to visit Sunworld's breeding program, and my parents came because they came from my graduation. My dad has been a grower for very long, many, many years. He's never seen that part. He only gets the grapes and he grows it. So he went there and he's like, oh my word, you're talking about a 16-year-old. I'm talking about my dad.
Yes.
That's like much older. And that was also like, I cannot believe this is what goes into it for me to get that grape and then grow it. But I think that education, and then internships. Internships is one way, like you say, open fruit shows. We do that in California every other week, and anyone is invited. So I think there's many opportunities for.
And if a student happens to listen to this and is inspired by this, opportunities for a company like Sunworld that they can contact and says, I'm from South Africa, I've got no official background, I want to do an internship with you there. Can they do, or not just South Africa, but in any country?
Yeah, we have the licensing offices in every country, so there's always the opportunity to contact that office and see if there is internships available. In addition to that, because you guys know, like, there's always work and you always need bodies, so that's definitely an open door. And then in addition to that, for our licensees specifically, we have this international internship program that takes interns every year, stone fruit and grape intern, and we basically accommodate them everything to be able to go work there in California. So they stay there for 2 to 3 months, and they help us with the
That's very cool.
It's very
That's
cool.
what Jan Hendrik did.
Yes, Jan Hendrik.
Okay.
Yeah, he was there when I was there. It was very fun to have him there. And with that, you also create relationships.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
like our interns, we still talk to them from years and years ago, and there's a family atmosphere to that. And also they take the obviously the knowledge they've gained, and
It's invaluable.
yeah,
But it's a clever way of ensuring your product will be sold without physical marketing, because it's going to take 3 months from a company like them, not just saying Sunworld, anybody, to employ somebody, teach them on their product. For the rest of his life, he's going to be selling that.
It's a long-term
Yes,
investment,
definitely.
actually, because you're investing in that person from another country, the skills and the knowledge and the excellence that your company has,
but
sending them back to where they come from, and they can then implement it there, and also be able to say, but you know what we learned. And
But if you take housing a young person for 3 months, feeding them, maybe entertaining, getting some work from them, because they in the field, they doing pruning and whatever. So you're already scoring on that, versus spending the money for 3 days at the Fruit Logistica. You know that guy's going to market your product for way longer than what that girl from whichever supermarket comes to stop quickly to chat about you.
it is as I say, it's a long-term investment, because, as you say, they keep coming back, they keep speaking to you. There's like it feels like family. And for international people who speak different languages across the globe can say, to feel like family, you're doing something right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And you guys, my question to you.
You're welcome.
Please ask.
So you guys went to Bakersfield and you saw the international fear of things, and also obviously all the varieties out there. And you also saw a lot about the industry with the Global Grape Summit that happened. What was your key takeaways and thoughts after that? Was it your first time attending something like that, or?
Well, the Global Grape Summit, yes. I've been to Fruit Logistica before. I've been there twice. But this was specific to grapes. I thought it was excellent. It was a very good thing. I think it happened at quite a tricky time in the grape industry's history. But I think a lot of that, all produce is going through that, and all internationally exported stuff, times are tight, times have been difficult. I think it was very good to get all the people in one room. And I think particularly from a South African perspective, you know, when you have problems, you always think they're up close and personal. So if the South African table grape industry, you always think, oh, it's just our problem. But then you go and heard there that actually everyone's having similar problems.
Yeah.
It's input costs, it's logistics problems, logistics costs, and reduced demand in the market, because the people are having to spend money on their energy costs because of what's happening in the world at the moment with the rapid increase in energy costs, particularly in Europe. So that was one. And then obviously the input costs that are associated with everything getting more expensive. So first of all, it is like, it's cold comfort, but the comfort was there, and South African growers told us that we're not alone. Everyone else has got the same problems, which means if it's a global problem, there has to be a global solution.
Yeah.
But if you want to know if we learned anything from that, I don't think we learned anything new. I've only
Other
been
than
in
perspective, like
I've only been in the agriculture industry now for about 3 years. But what I've learned in that 3 years, I can't say I've come back from the Grape Summit particularly, and I learned something new there.
and also the perspectives of the Californian growers. It was interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Cookie Bianco,
Yeah.
he was quite a star, and what he had to say and the things he had to say. I mean, I often think that when people have lived a life like he has, and you've got the kind of experience he has, and you've also got the confidence to just say it as it is.
Yes.
So that I found
I think
very
he was the
interesting.
star of the whole thing. I think everybody, if you ask anybody that was there, what was the hit, it would have been him.
And it wasn't even that long. It was just like
There.
bang, bang, boof.
Yes.
But how do you feel from one of the growers when somebody like him says what he did say?
I think we know what we're doing in a sense, and I think we know our values and who we are and how we handle our business, and we're confident in that because we truly, obviously, we're in the business for our clients. So I think with that, obviously, it's something that you take a step back and like, okay, that's a obviously attack on us, but I think our values in our core is strong, and it's been proven over the years, and we just continue fighting that fight and building, continuously building on our values.
Is Sunworld going to be involved with the 2023 convention that's going to be in South Africa?
I believe so. We'll do some sponsorships, and we still need to have discussions with them, but we're looking to also get our global technical support team on the ground and see if we can assist with that and helping them with that symposium. Symposium. So we'll see.
Thank you. I think we've chatted. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No,
anything
good
specific?
luck. No, for you guys, good job and good luck with the future. And I really hope this podcast and even your other work like just booms in the industry and just takes you beyond the borders.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah.
We really appreciate that. You know what? We are passionate about what we do. I was just saying to Dewald, actually, I love what I do. It makes me jump out of bed in the morning. And I mean, that you can't buy. You either have it or you don't.
Yeah.
And agriculture is so important and it's close to both our hearts and we love it.
I've never worked as hard as I've done now, and I've enjoyed it so much.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
but you can personally follow your desires out, and it's like your dream you're building. And
Yesterday evening, we were filming wheat harvesting by moonlight. And that's phenomenal to see the footage from above, to see the harvesters going through the field at dusk and the moon was rising. And I mean, that was, it was just awesome. And here we are today chatting to you. So agriculture is, we're definitely going there.
I've in the space of 3 days earlier this year, I've photographed and filmed macadamias, kiwis, stone fruit and grapes.
Yeah. But you guys do an amazing job, and that's why you have that. But continue telling the egg story.
Yes, we want to tell the egg story. But thank you very much.
Thank you so
pleasure.
much.
Thanks,
And
guys.
the very best of luck with your job. It's so exciting, and you're actually a bit of a role model and an icon for people, because, I mean, there you are. You're young, you're working for an international company, and you've done it. So good on you, and keep going.
Thank you, Louise. I appreciate it.
Right. Thank you.